Welcome to Weekday Somatics. So we'll I have an intention for today. We'll see if that see we'll see what actually happens. But if my intention comes to fruition, then we'll be exploring something that I'll be doing sitting. So I'll be giving, if we get to it, I'll be giving the instruction with reference to sitting. So if you can sit without strain upright, then you'll be able to follow along with the instruction as I give it. But if sitting is strenuous for you, then you'll be able to do it lying down. You may need to adapt some of the instructions slightly, but you could do it lying on the back. If you are doing it, if you're going to choose to lie on the back, I would recommend that you set yourself up, if at all possible, to have the head free to move, to turn. So I would recommend no super cushiony pillows that hold your head in position, if you can do so without strain. So most important thing, as always, is your gentle presence and your gentle willingness. So before we begin that portion that I have intended, let's take a few moments to come to a deeper rest. So I read something interesting some time ago. I don't remember how long ago, but what I read was that specific to crime, said that crime decreases when there are when there's the suggestion that someone might be watching. So the presence of a camera, for example, has been shown to decrease crime, even if the camera isn't actually connected to anything. So if it appears that there's a camera connected to something, and then people have a sense that they're being watched, crime decreases. Not only that, though, it was interesting that simply an image of eyes decreases crime. So I guess the takeaway from that is if you have a recurring crime problem, paint some eyes on the wall. Now, why do I mention this? Oh, I'd like to invite you to observe in your experience, looking at memory, also just at your reaction in imagination. Both will do really similar functions. So you could imagine for a moment that you are all alone, perfectly safe, whatever whatever scenario you have to imagine for that. Maybe you're in your fortress, everything's locked down, so you know for sure you're safe and nobody's around. So you're free to be completely unguarded, to be yourself, to be at ease. So really imagine that, really get a sense of that, feel into that, what that experience is like. Notice how your breathing is. Notice the sensations in the body. If you really are imagining this really thoroughly, sincerely, then you'll notice that there is a state of relative ease. Now, I want you to imagine that, much to your surprise, because you certainly expected that you would have warning against such things because you had the alarm system set up and set 10 layers of fortress for people to have to get through with all the security systems. Somehow somebody subverted all of that, and the door flings open and in comes your spouse, your parents, your children, your neighbors, your school teachers from childhood. And they all see you for a moment, unguarded, being yourself, at ease. And notice what happens. Notice your reaction. And if this isn't clear to you, then repeat this several times. Again, imagine yourself totally safe. So this is in your imagination, so you have this power, by the way. So if there's a voice that says, "Oh, I can't do it," well, you have total control here. It's just your imagination. You get to imagine whatever you want. Do you see? It's only the voice that says what this is, and you believe it. The voice says, "I can't," and you believe it. The voice says, "I'm too uptight," and you believe it. The voice says, "I don't know how to let go," and you believe it. But this is your imagination. You get to do whatever you want. So just imagine, forget about what you think you're experiencing. What you think you're experiencing really doesn't matter. What you think you're experiencing is a total deception. So just imagine that it's okay. You're safe. You're unguarded. You're free. You're yourself. You're totally okay, at ease. Just imagine, even if you don't know what that would be like. Well, that's okay. Just imagine. Just imagine this possibility. Notice that at the very least, you have hints of a direction. At the very least, you know that in this imaginary scenario where you're totally safe, completely safe, that the direction is one of surrender. The direction is one of release. The direction is one of ease. At the very least, you know that much. So just imagine that. Notice that when you imagine yourself by yourself, nobody sees you, no risk of anybody seeing you, totally safe. Your breathing is uncontrolled, gentle. Your mind is relaxed. Let's take this a little further, just so it can be really clear. Not only are you perfectly safe and all alone, but you're perfectly safe and all alone, and you have absolute certainty that all of your needs are taken care of, that there's nothing that is being asked of you in any way. There's nothing whatsoever that you need to do indefinitely. Indefinitely. There's nothing that you need to do. You don't have to go to work. You don't have to answer to anybody. You don't have to get dressed. You don't have to brush your hair. You don't have to brush your teeth. You don't have to eat your vegetables. You don't have to do the laundry. You don't have to try and manage other people's experiences, other people's emotions, other people's beliefs. You don't have to do any of that because you're totally free in this imaginary scenario. Indefinitely. There's no end in sight to it. So you're actually free to surrender really deeply because there's no anticipation of, oh, but tomorrow I'm going to have to go back to work. It's indefinite. And then imagine that they all come in and take you by surprise. You're so unguarded, so free, so open. You didn't even know who you were. And now all of a sudden they come in, you're surprised. Notice what happens. Do you notice the habit of controlling the breath, the habit of the squeezing of the mind, the grasping for something? Oh, what am I supposed to do? How am I supposed to be? What are they going to think? Am I doing the right thing? Did I forget to brush my teeth? Do I have bad breath? Do I smell bad? Did I do my chores? Are they going to approve of me? Well, you already you already know the answers to all those questions, which is what you can what you can observe in your somatic experience. So the answers are what are arising in that experience, the gripping, the tensing, the contraction, the armoring, the fear, anxiety, anticipation, stress. Okay, so here's the problem. You've got eyes painted on the wall of your inside. Isn't that true? This sense that there's always somebody watching. So you can't fully release because there's always somebody watching. And who's watching? No matter where you go, no matter what you do, it's never enough. It's never good enough. You never get it right enough. You're never successful enough. Even if you can pat yourself on the back and say, I did good today. Well, tomorrow's not going to be so good, is it? Who's watching? Who's watching you? And who is being watched? So let's maybe answer those questions with something that will seem like a non sequitur. There's a old video game called Pong. What's the point of this game, if I remember it correctly? There's this rectangular playing area, and on two opposite sides are these paddles that can move side to side, and a ball that bounces back and forth. And the gameplay is to keep the ball bouncing back and forth. Try not to let the ball slip through. So who is watching and who is being watched? It's like Pong. Back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Now just let that ball slip through. Oh, now at first there's this initial reaction. Oh, I failed. Disappointment, discouragement, frustration. You see all the habits. Okay, but what are those habits? Well, that's still being locked into the gameplay. Let's get outside of the game. Let's get outside of this game of someone watching and someone being watched. Let the ball slip through, let the reactions come. Just notice that all of that is very familiar. All of that is what you assumed you were. You thought you were the one being watched. You were the one watching, although you also played a game where you projected that onto something, some other fantasy entity. See how all that was just keeping this game going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Can we admit it? It's a stupid game. So wouldn't it be nice to be at ease always? Wouldn't it be nice to be free to be completely yourself without any pressure whatsoever to do anything, to perform, to appear in any way, regardless of who's around, regardless of whether there are eyes painted on the wall or not, regardless of whether there's a closed caption, uh, closed circuit camera or not, regardless of whether your wife is in the room or your husband is in the room or your ex-husband or your ex-wife or your children. How about this? Let's get your ex-husband, your ex-wife, your ex-girlfriends, your ex-boyfriends, your current wife and your current husband, all your children, your parents, your neighbors, your employers, your employees, and everybody else in the room. Let's have you naked, without your makeup, without your defenses, without your intellect. Wouldn't it be nice to be here defenseless, like truly defenseless, to finally admit that you've got no possibility of defending yourself whatsoever against any of the things that you've imagined were there to harm you? All of the other people's opinions, their judgments, their disapproval. Wouldn't it be nice to be in this situation and to be totally free? Wouldn't it be nice to be able to go to the store and be free? Wouldn't it be nice to be at home and be free? Wouldn't it be nice to have a difference of opinion with your spouse and be free? Wouldn't it be nice, even if your spouse thinks that your idea is stupid, to be free? Wouldn't it be nice to not have to bother with any of the thoughts of self-defense, like how dare they? I'm don't they know that I'm trying my best? Don't they know that I'm smart? Don't they know that I'm working really hard? Wouldn't it be nice to not have to bother with any of that? Okay, so that's a rhetorical question. If 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 it's not obvious that the answer to that is a resounding yes, then maybe, well, then you'll have to let me know and we'll have to do a different inquiry. Of course it would be nice. It would be wonderful. That's what we want. But now see, what is it that stands in the way of that? Who who's the obstacle? Who, who? So is it your wife or your husband, your children, your parents, your neighbor? Who? Look to see, in just in your own imagination, you can get a sense of this reactivity, this guardedness, this defensiveness, this argumentativeness. So who's responsible? They are? No, clearly not. You can tell the truth about that now. If you can imagine it, it's not them. They're not doing anything to you. How do their words touch you? How do their judgments and their opinions, how does their uptightness affect you? Can you observe the way you do it? Can you observe the way that you do the whole thing? Again, imagine yourself totally safe, completely safe, free to be yourself, unguarded. Completely unburdened, no worries at all. Can't you see how all the worries are they're all about the future? There's not a problem now, it's always about the future. Even if you say there's a problem now, the worries are always about the future. The worries are, if you say, oh, I've got a problem now, the worry is, well, the problem's going to be worse in the future. See through that, and it takes the sting out of the apparent problem now, and then it starts to unwind, and you realize there's no problem now. There was just the anticipation, the apprehension. So imagine you're totally safe. So not a care in the world, nothing to be worried about. If you want to pick your nose, you can pick your nose. If you want to scratch your butt, you can scratch your butt. If you want to eat without washing your hands, you can do that. You can do whatever you want. You're free. There are no mirrors. There's nothing to compare to. You're just totally free. Now, imagine that all of them, they all barge in suddenly. They see you. They see you picking your nose. They see you scratching your butt. They see you without your clothes on. They see you making mistakes. They see you not being so smart, not so together, not so attractive, not so wonderful as you would like them to think. Notice what you do. Out of habit, you try to pull yourself together. Contract on the front side. You draw inward. Maybe the arms come across the chest. Trying to protect yourself. But protect yourself from what? Let's get really clear on it. Protect yourself from what? So wouldn't it be nice to be free? Wouldn't it be nice to be at ease? Can you see how it's possible? So now imagine yourself, again, totally safe, totally at ease, free to be yourself without having to define that, without having to be someone. without having to be a good person, without having to be a smart person, without having to be an attractive person, without having to be someone who meets with others' approval, without even having to be someone who meets with your own approval. Imagine yourself that free, that at ease, that unconcerned. Notice what that experience is somatically. Notice that the openness, the surrender, the physical ease of it. Even if you don't think you're experiencing that, just open to that in imagination. Just notice what it's like in imagination, if nothing else. Because you have a sense of it. You have a sense of it, and maybe it's even easier and maybe even better just to stay with that sense of it in imagination. Don't bother mucking about in the field of argumentativeness. I'm not really sure what I'm feeling. It feels a little uptight. I don't think I'm doing it right. I'm not going to get the benefits if I don't do it right. All that kind of thing. Just drop that. Just stay. If it's better for you, just stay with it in imagination. Just stay with the freedom and the openness that you can discover in imagination, which you can because you're in charge here. All you have to do is just be willing. You can do it. You can imagine freedom. You can imagine openness. You can imagine ease. You can imagine total effortlessness. Now, notice this experience and stay with this experience. Let this experience be your anchor. Let this freedom, this ease, this openness, this grace be your anchor. And don't disturb it. Don't disturb it. I'm going to suggest now some things, and I want you to allow these suggestions to enter into your imagination, but I want you to remain with this anchor of openness, this anchor of peace, this anchor of unguardedness. Stay with this. Let this be your core, and this will then blossom. So staying with this ease, this unguardedness, I want you to imagine that they all come in. They're all seeing you. They're seeing you eat the cookies. You've got crumbs all over yourself. You're naked. You're picking your nose. You haven't bathed in weeks. You're singing along out of tune with some song that you like, dancing. Really, if it's possible for you, really explore in your imagination, seeing them see you. Let them see you. Let them see you, and don't make any effort to hide. Don't make any effort to change. Don't make any effort to adjust. Don't make any effort to comply. Don't make any effort to seek approval. Don't make any effort at all. Just let them see you. Let them see you totally unguarded. Let them see all that you have believed was so unacceptable, shameful, disgusting. Whatever those things are for you, let them see in your imagination. Let them see. Let them see it all. And just observe the habits of self-defense, trying to pull yourself together, trying to hide yourself, trying to correct yourself. And if you want to take it even a step further, let them have their judgments. Let them have their opinions. Let them disapprove. See that you don't need the things that you thought you needed in order to be free. Whatever it is that they might do or say, just let that happen in your imagination. Let them think and say what they do. You're a disgrace. You should be ashamed of yourself. Oh my goodness, I had no idea that you did that. What if the neighbors find out? Put on some clothes. Have some self-respect. If you keep eating like that, you're going to look like a pig. And see that it's possible to remain true to yourself, not your idea of yourself, because your idea of yourself requires effort, doesn't it? That your idea of yourself is that contraction. Your idea of yourself is, how dare you judge me? I know I'm okay. You should approve of me because I'm acceptable. So when I'm talking about being true to yourself, talking about being true to this unguarded nature, this innocence that does not need any conditions to be. Does not need approval nor disapproval. Does not need judgment nor non-judgment. Does not need anything. Doesn't need to be attractive or unattractive. Doesn't need to be seen or not seen. Totally free. It's here. It's at the heart of who you are. You can, I sure hope you can recognize it in this. It's so simple. It's so innocent. It's so pure. It can't be touched. So now the question is, are you willing to receive this jewel, this flawless gem, and bring it into your waking life? Let it shine beyond your imagination. So that you are free, free always, free no matter what, with no pressure whatsoever to prove yourself, to get approval, to compare, to get it right. And if there is a yes within you to that, then stay true to that. As we transition from the formal inquiry, remain aware of this purity that is unaffected, untouched by any of the judgments, any of the ideas, any of the habits, the rules, the ideas. This purity that remains innocent and open always. It's right here. It's always here. So just remain aware of it. Allow it to be a smooth transition. If your eyes have been closed, then allow the eyes to open slowly and gently so that you don't introduce some unnecessary suddenness. And when you're ready, begin to slowly open the eyes at your own pace. Really take your time with it. And as you begin to move the body, do so with awareness so that you don't disturb this discovery of this unblemished perfection at the heart of who you are. Because this, if you remain with this, if you remain with this and allow this to be your anchor, this will transition with you from imagination into your waking life. It will begin to transform all of your relationships. It will begin to transform all of your activities. You'll find that you become gentler, more patient, without trying, not because you should, but because you're no longer in so much pain, because you're no longer straining under this impossible burden of being someone. You're not needing to react or prove anything. You don't need to let other people know, hey, how dare you judge me because don't you see I'm nobody? You're so free, you don't need to prove anything to anybody. Let them have the judgments they have. It's nothing to do with you. You don't need to prove anything. You don't need to argue with them. You don't need to be right. You're free. Free is better than right. So much better. I should have expected that we wouldn't do what I had in mind. So for those who are here live, we'll stay on for the Q&A. But take your time, really. I really mean that. Because we touch upon these really deep truths in these inquiries, whether you think so or not. It's just it's the truth. So but that, like I said, that gift, it's a jewel. It's the jewel of yourself. It's the jewel of your authentic nature, and you can carry that with you into your waking life. But if you rush, then you overlook it. And it's like, there's this moment of, oh, this beautiful jewel. And then the next moment, throw it away. And, oh, no, I'm not wearing the right clothes. Oh, no, I forgot I'm supposed to be somewhere. Oh, no, what are they going to think? Oh, no. But you see, there's no shortage of that. There's no shortage of all the eyes painted on the walls. There's so many eyes painted on the walls. But if every time there's eyes painted on the walls, you imagine that there's somebody watching and that somebody's being watched, wow. Well, you already know. You know what that is. That's hell. And that's what most of us have come to think of as normal life. But you have another possibility that you you touch upon. It's real, and it's this jewel that you recognize in these inquiries, and then it's up to you what you do. don't don't think that just because you see the jewel and you have this moment that necessarily is going to translate into your life being better. It's up to you. What do you do? Do you abandon it? Do you throw it in the trash? Do you say, well, that was great, but that was only when I was sitting with my eyes closed in my imagination? Or do you really receive it? If you really receive it, then you hold it so gently right here, and you know that this is true. This is always true, and you have to remain true to that. You have to really honor that. You have to recognize that in your waking state. Know that that is true. Know that you've tasted something real, far more real than the diluted fantasy that you took to be real life. Remain true to that. Then the diluted fantasy changes. It has to, because you are recognizing what's real. Reality always trumps delusion. So for those who are watching the recording, thanks for joining. I'm going to end it now.